There's a moment in life when the noise fades, when the distractions, the excuses, the chaos all go quiet. And in that silence, something real begins to surface. Your reality, not the version you've created for the world to see, but the one you've been carrying quietly. The truth is, for many people, that reality doesn't feel whole. It doesn't feel polished. It doesn't feel together. It feels fractured, worn out, drained, like something's off. And the mind is what it always does. It labels. You begin to say things like, I'm broken, I'm lost, I'm not myself anymore. You wear those statements like a badge, and over time you begin to believe them. The danger isn't in feeling broken. It's in identifying with it. The problem is never the setback. It's the story you attach to it. Here's the shift that must happen in 2025. You're not broken. You're under construction. That statement alone can reshape your direction. It flips the narrative. It takes you out of victimhood and puts you back in control. Because when you think you're broken, you act like someone who needs saving. You wait. You shrink. You hope someone shows up with the fix. But when you realize you're under construction, you pick up the tools. You start rebuilding. You move. There's a critical difference between something that's broken that's being built. Broken implies finality. Like the damage is permanent. Like the best parts are behind you. You under construction, on the other hand, means progress. It means there's a vision, a blueprint, a purpose in the mess. It means that what you're walking through right now isn't your punishment. It's your preparation. We're taught to be ashamed of our struggle. Social media tells you to only show the polished parts, the achievement, the clean house, the perfect relationship, the wins. But behind every powerful person is a construction zone, a place where things have been stripped down, gutted, and rebuilt. No one talks about the demolition phase, the part where you had to let go of who you were pretending to be in order to become who you were meant to be. There is power in destruction if it's followed by reconstruction. If the old habits, the old beliefs, the old limitations have been shattered, that's not failure, it's foundation work. That's the trench before the tower. And make no mistake, a rebuilding doesn't look pretty. It's dirty, it's repetitive, it's frustrating. There will be days where it feels like nothing is happening. Screwed up life. Like all you're doing is digging and sweating and failing. But just because you can't see the structure yet doesn't mean the progress isn't real. You don't pour a foundation and expect a skyscraper the next day. You lay brick after brick. You show up. You reinforce. You keep going. That's the work. That's the part most people skip. Because they're chasing the outcome. They want the life, the success, the clarity, but they don't want the construction period. They don't want the solitude, the discipline, the silence. But the construction zone is where confidence is built. It's where grit is born. It's where you learn how to trust yourself again. Because maybe somewhere along the way, you stopped trusting yourself. You broke promises to yourself. You said you'd start. You didn't. You said you'd change. You waited. You said next time. And every delay chipped away at your self-belief. Rebuilding starts by keeping the smallest of promises, not massive overhauls. Just consistent action. You said you'd wake up earlier. Do it. You said you'd go to the gym. Go. You said you'd stop numbing with distractions and actually sit with your discomfort. Sit with it. Every time you follow through, you patch a crack in your foundation. You reinforce your identity. You're not building a version of you that never struggles. You're building a version of you that knows how to respond when struggle comes. You're becoming the architect of your own resilience. And that doesn't happen by accident. It happens because you finally realize that nothing in your life gets rebuilt until you stop labeling the damage as permanent. Whatever you lost in the last season, confidence, clarity, passion, identity, it's not just buried. It's buried under old habits, old beliefs, outdated stories. And the construction process, it's the digging, the excavating, the tearing down of everything that doesn't belong so you can make space for what does. The most dangerous lie you can believe is that you're the same as your worst moment. You're not. You're not your mistakes. You're your trauma. You're not your lowest season. Those are just the moments that are demanding a stronger, wiser, more focused version of you to emerge. There will be people who won't recognize you while you're under construction. Let them go. You're not building for their understanding. You're building for your alignment. This is your site. Your scaffolding, your process. And no one else needs to approve the blueprint. So when you feel behind, when you feel off track, when it feels like everyone else is accelerating and you're stuck in the mud, remember this, you're not broken. You're under construction. There's a hard truth that most people never want to hear, but it's the truth that separates the average from the extraordinary. Motivation is unreliable. It's fleeting. It comes and goes like weather. It's there when you're inspired, when things are going well, when energy is high. But what happens on the days it's not there? What happens when you wake up and feel nothing but resistance, doubt, fatigue, and stress? That's when most people quit. Not because they don't want success. Not because they're not capable, but because they were depending on a feeling instead of building a structure. That's the difference between discipline and motivation. Motivation is an emotion. Discipline is a decision. Motivation is loud. It screams, go get it. When you're pumped up after a podcast, a video, a goal-setting session. Discipline is silent. It whispers, show up. When no one's watching, when it's hard, when your mind is full of excuses. You don't build your life on moments of high energy. You build in the quiet, in the repetition, in the dull, unsexy hours where no one's clapping and no one's cheering, and you have to become the source of your own movement. That's where greatness is born. Not in the spark, but in the structure. People wait for motivation like it's some sort of divine permission slip. They say, I'll start when I feel ready. But the truth is, readiness is a myth. Waiting to feel like it is the fastest way to never do it. Discipline says, I do it because I said I would. Discipline is identity. It's who you decide to become regardless of the conditions around you. The most successful, consistent, grounded people aren't the ones who always feel inspired. They're the who operates, who opt from principle, from standards, from commitments, not convenience. They don't ask, do I feel like doing this today? They ask, what's required of me today? That shift in thinking is everything. When you live from motivation, your life becomes reactive. You only move when it's easy. You only push when it's fun. You become addicted to stimulation, needing the perfect song, the perfect setting, the perfect spark to get started. But when you live from discipline, your life becomes intentional. Control the inputs. You set the tone. You don't need the world to align for you to act. You act regardless. That's power. That's personal freedom, the ability to do what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like it, especially when you don't feel like it. That's when it counts the most, because anyone can work when it's easy. Anyone can stay on track when it's exciting. But what defines you is who you are when it's boring, uncomfortable, inconvenient, and invisible. Motivation has a short shelf life. You can be fired up on January 1st and burned out by February. That's what happens when you don't have structure. Goals are nice, but without discipline, they're just wish lists. You don't get results from dreaming. You get results from doing, and doing consistently. That's what discipline delivers: repetition, reliability results. There is something sacred about showing up on the days when it would have been easier to hide, about pushing through when everything in you is begging to quit, about saying yes to your higher self and no to your comfort zone. That's where confidence comes from. Not from success, but from self-trust. From knowing you can count on yourself even in chaos. That trust is built one decision at a time. You don't need to overhaul your life in one giant leap. You need to build routines, rituals, and responsibilities that keep you aligned with your values, that keep you steady when emotions are not. Motivation wants you to sprint. Discipline wants you to build. Motivation is excited about what could be. Discipline is loyal to what must be. This year is not about how loud your start is. It's about how solid your system is. When your energy fades, when your circumstances change, when pressure hits, your habits will either hold you or break you. You don't rise to your goals, you fall to your systems. And those systems are shaped by discipline, not desire. Desire wants results. Discipline builds them. Desire imagines the future. Discipline creates it. That stop waiting. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop letting your feelings make your decisions. You start living by a code, one that says, I show up because I said I would. I follow through because I respect myself. I train my body, my mind, my habits because the life I want requires it. People will ask you how you did it, how you stayed consistent, how you rebuilt, transformed, evolved. They'll assume it was motivation, some burning inner fire they don't have. They won't see the truth, that it was built in the cold mornings, in the tiny wins stacked on top of each other like bricks, that it was built with no audience, no applause, no comfort, just discipline over and over again. There's a line in the sand you have to draw, a clear, bold, and personal line that says, this is who I am, this is what I accept, and this is where I refuse to lower myself any further. That line is called your standard. And your life will never rise above the standards you tolerate. It doesn't matter how ambitious your goals are, how passionate your dreams feel, or how inspired your intentions may be. If your standards are low, the results will match them every single time. Most people don't realize it, but their standards are being set every day by default. Not through conscious choice, but through repetition, comfort, excuses, and the people around them. You start accepting being tired as normal, being distracted as inevitable, being inconsistent as excusable. Slowly, your life becomes a reflection not of your highest potential, but of what you've quietly allowed to continue. And the worst part is, it doesn't look like failure. It just looks like settling. A little here, until you can barely recognize the fire you once had. Excuses are the most subtle form of self-betrayal. They feel like protection. They sound rational. I'm too busy. I'll start later. This is just how I am. But all they really do is delay your progress and defend your limitations. And once you start defending your limitations, you get stuck inside them. You stop pushing boundaries, stop challenging yourself. You start shrinking to the identity of someone who lives 60%, 70%, sometimes even less. While convincing yourself you're doing fine, raising your standards is not about perfection. It's about alignment. It's about asking yourself every single day, is this action, this behavior, this mindset aligned with the version of me I claim I want to be? If it's not, then something has to change. And the change has to start with you. Not with your environment, not with your friends, not with your circumstances. You cannot keep lowering the bar just because the people around you are walking instead of running. You can't keep adjusting your effort just to match someone else's mediocrity. Your standards are your responsibility. You don't raise your life by yelling about goals. You raise your life by refusing to settle for what drains you, delays you, or distracts you. You say no when it's easier to say yes. You show up when it's more comfortable to disappear. You correct yourself when excuses start to whisper. That's what raising your standards looks like. It's not loud, it's not flashy. It's built in private. It's proven in consistency. And it's tested when things go wrong, not when everything's going right. There's always going to be a moment when you want to retreat, when it feels like the pressure is too much. When your old habits start calling you back, that's the moment your standard matters most, because your standard is not what you post about. It's not what you say on your best day. It's what you demand of yourself when no one is holding you accountable but you, when no one is watching, when no one is checking in. That's the real line. That's the real discipline. Some people think high standards make life harder. They think it's about being rigid, controlling, even arrogant. That's not the truth. High standards are not about perfectionism. They are about integrity. They're about living in a way that honors your vision, not your excuses. They're about refusing to lie to yourself, even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable. You will always find reasons to wait, to pause, to justify playing it safe. But every excuse you choose to believe today becomes the reality you have to live with tomorrow. And the trade-off is not worth it, because deep down, you know the difference between pushing yourself and playing yourself. You know when you've crossed the line from resting to avoiding, from relaxing to procrastinating. You can feel it. That tension, that inner pull, that's your potential trying to wake you up. That's your higher self reminding you that you were built for more than comfort, more than convenience, more than compromise. Raising your standards means rethinking what you tolerate in your health, in your finances, in your conversations, in your environment, in your own thinking. It means no longer negotiating with yourself every time something feels hard. It means seeing excuses not as reasons, but as lies you've told yourself so often they started to sound true. It means replacing those lies with action, with habits, with focus. You are not your excuses. You are not your past patterns. You are the architect of what comes next, and the structure you build will be made of what you allow and what you enforce. You have a standards or the blueprint. They define how high you go, how far you push, how real your growth becomes. And every time you raise them, life starts to meet you at that level, not because life changed, but because you did. There's a trap most people fall into when they want to change their lives. They start on the surface. They look at the outer layers, their job, their appearance, their routines, their calendar. They start rearranging tasks, adding habits, downloading productivity apps, or setting new goals. They tell themselves that if they just fix what's outside, everything on the inside will follow. But that's not how real, lasting transformation happens, because the outer structure of your life is always a mirror of your inner world. You cannot rebuild anything real until you start at the core. Rebuilding from the inside out is about confronting the root, not managing the symptoms. It's not about behavior alone. It's about identity, because everything you do is driven by who you believe you are. You can force a habit for a few weeks, maybe even a few months, but if your identity hasn't shifted, you will always return to the level of belief you have about yourself. The rebuild begins when you stop trying to fix outcomes and start reshaping the internal story that produces them. That story, your inner dialogue, is running constantly. It tells you what you deserve, what you're capable of, what's possible for you. If that story is based on fear, on failure, on shame, on disappointment, it doesn't matter how many surface level changes you make. Those changes will collapse the moment pressure hits. But when the story is rewritten, when it comes from strength, from alignment, from clarity, your entire life begins to shift without force. Because now you're moving from truth, not tension. Rebuilding from the inside means asking the hard questions. Who am I when no one is looking? What beliefs am I carrying that were never mine to begin with? What part of me have I been avoiding because it's uncomfortable to confront? You don't rebuild by stacking on more layers. You rebuild by stripping away the ones that no longer serve you. The people-pleasing, the self-sabotage, the perfectionism, the fake confidence, the silent fear of not being enough. All of it must be exposed before it can be healed. The most powerful transformations come not when you add something new, but when you remove what's false. The overcompensating, the need to prove yourself, the addiction to external validation. All of it is noise. And as long as the inside is noisy, the outside will be chaotic. The rebuild starts when you choose peace over performance, when you choose truth over the illusion of having it all together. And that's what makes the inside work so difficult. It's quiet. It's not glamorous. There's no applause for sitting in silence and facing your own thoughts. There's no trophy for choosing to forgive someone who will never say sorry. There's no headline for letting go of an identity that once kept you safe, but now keeps you stuck. But this is the work. This is the foundation. Everything else is built on top of this. Because once the inside is aligned, decisions become clear. You stop chasing things that don't fulfill you. You stop reacting out of fear. You stop pretending to be someone you're not. You stop outsourcing your worth to other people's opinions. And instead, you start moving with calm, consistent conviction. Not because life got easier, but because you became anchored. Too many people are trying to upgrade their lives while carrying a version of themselves that was built in survival mode. They're operating with outdated programming, habits that mix in past environments, but are now sabotaging their future. That version of you that learned to numb, to run, to avoid, to please, to overwork. It was necessary then, but it's not who you need to be now. That version can build what you want next. You can respect it, thank it, and release it, because this next level of your life needs a more honest version of you. Rebuilding from the inside also means reconnecting with your values. Not the ones you inherited, not the ones that sound good, but the ones that actually reflect your truth. Who are you when nothing external is defining you? What matters to you when the noise fades? That clarity becomes the compass. Because once you know your values, decision-making gets simpler. You stop being pulled in 10 directions. You stop saying yes when you mean no. You stop entertaining anything that violates your peace, your purpose, your integrity. You rebuild from the inside when you prioritize alignment over appearance. When you realize that what looks good isn't always what feels right. When you stop performing success and start embodying it. The inside-out rebuild is slower. It requires patience. It's not an overnight change. It's a rewiring. It's the daily decision to return to what's true, to silence the noise, to be brutally honest about what needs to go and deeply committed to what must stay. This kind of work is invisible at first. You won't see instant results, but you'll feel the shift. You'll feel it when you walk into a room and no longer need to be the loudest person. You'll feel it when you can sit with your emotions instead of running from them. You'll feel it when your actions are no longer based on anxiety, but on clarity. That's how you know the inside is being rebuilt. Not because everything is perfect, but because it's becoming real. There's a myth that transformation happens in giant leaps. That one breakthrough, one perfect plan, one sudden wave of motivation will flip everything in your life. People look for the dramatic moment, the cinematic turning point, the one event that will pull them out of their struggle and catapult them into a completely new life. But that's not how it works. That's not how identity is built. You don't wake up one day and become disciplined, consistent, confident, or fulfilled. Those aren't traits that arrive. They are traits that are earned. And they're earned in the smallest, most seemingly insignificant actions you take every single day. Your life is a reflection of your habits. Your identity is a result of your behaviors. What you do repeatedly is who you are becoming. If you want to change your life, you don't start by setting massive goals. You start by mastering the daily. The real transformation begins when you take responsibility for the moments no one sees, the decisions that look like they don't matter, waking up on time, saying no to the distraction, pushing through one more rep, reading one more page, shutting down negative self-talk. These are not small. These are the bricks your future is made from. Too many people overlook the daily work because it doesn't offer immediate reward. They underestimate because it doesn't feel impressive. But the truth is, your small daily actions are the training ground for who you're becoming. They are not neutral. They are either pulling you toward your potential or keeping you tied to your past. There is no in between. Every decision is either reinforcement of you that stays stuck or the version of you that rises. Rebuilding yourself is not a loud process. It's not something that announces itself with fireworks. A screwed up life, it's quiet, it's disciplined, it's doing what you said you would do after the feeling you made the commitment in has worn off. That's where identity shifts. Up life, when you do the thing even when you're tired, even when you're unsure, even when no one else is holding you accountable but you. You have a screwed up life because you've decided that who you're becoming is worth more than the comfort of staying the same. People wait for the big moment because it's easier to be romantic about transformation than to be committed to consistency. They say they want change, but they resist routine. They crave growth, life, but they avoid structure. But the truth is, you don't build a legacy by accident. You build it with intention. You build it by showing up and stacking small wins one day at a time until the person you be is no longer recognizable. That version of you, the one who felt stuck, scattered, reactive, inconsistent, didn't just appear overnight. It was built through repetition, through the same patterns repeated over and over again until they became familiar, comfortable even. And if that version of you was created through repetition, then the new version, the focused one, the grounded one, the clear one, can be created the exact same way. It's not about speed, it's about direction, and direction is chosen in the daily decisions. There's a reason why most people never change long term. They're trying to change their results without changing their rituals. They want different outcomes while repeating the same behaviors. They want the transformation without the process. But process is where you meet yourself. It's where you get honest. It's where you uncover the difference between what you say you want and what your actions are actually aligned with. And that's where the real work begins. The smallest action repeated consistently carries more weight than the biggest action done once. One disciplined day doesn't transform you, but 100 of them in a row rewires you. Not just in habit, but in identity. Because every time you act in alignment with your goals, your brain begins to believe it. Every time you follow through, you build trust with yourself. And trust with yourself is the foundation of confidence. Not confidence in theory, confidence in proof. Proof that you do what you say. Proof that you show up even when it's hard. Proof that you're not just dreaming of the life you want, you're building it. This is not about becoming robotic or obsessive. This is about becoming aligned, living in a way that matches your vision, not just on your best days, but on your ordinary days. The days that don't feel special, the mornings when nothing is exciting, the nights when quitting would be easy. Those are the moments that count because anyone can act motivated when they're excited. But who are you when it's just you, your alarm clocks, and your plan? If your current reality is the outcome of years of small unconscious actions, Then imagine what becomes possible when you flip that pattern, when your actions are no longer reactive, but intentional, when your daily rituals are not about getting by, but about building up. That's how change becomes inevitable, not dramatic, but over inevitable, because now your days are stacked with decisions that reflect your future, not your fear, not your past, not your excuses. Just clarity, repetition, and alignment with the person you are becoming, the choices you make every single day. Rebuilding isn't a phase, it's a personal revolution. It's the moment you stop negotiating with mediocrity and start designing your life with precision. It's realizing you're not broken. You've just outgrown the identity that kept you small. And now, in 2025, the only way forward is through disciplined action, higher standards, and internal alignment. This is the year you stop chasing the illusion of motivation and start showing up with structure. You build from the inside out, not to impress anyone, but to live in truth. You commit to small, daily actions that shift your identity from intention to execution. You become the architect of your evolution, not by waiting for life to hand you change, but by creating it through relentless clarity and courageous consistency. This is your blueprint. This is your call. This is your construction year. It's time to rebuild yourself